It's because both sides wanted the pictures. It had no idea how Patty's gonna get. They wanted the pictures of people yelling at each other. That's what they want.
There's so much that went on there that day on the email.
Don't make me do it.
Good afternoon, Chairman Downey.
Hello, Ms. Kenmore, thank you, as always, for being vocal and saying hello. Welcome to a very unique meeting. This is our Committee of the Whole, our regularly scheduled July meeting. For those of you that were not with us earlier today, this is an experiment, and again, Ms. Zoller had indicated, we did this a lot during COVID, but best practice has been traditionally that we do 2 days worth of meetings, that we do our committee meetings on Wednesday, and then we have our Committee of the Whole on Thursday. But July has traditionally been, as you will see, a very, what we call a light month. We only had business from two committees, which is our Budget and Rules Committee. And so we decided as an experiment to see if we could do all of it in one day. Our committee's in the morning, and we didn't even start meeting until 10:30, and we were done with that by 11:30. We adjourned to executive session, and now we're back here, starting the Committee of the Whole. So this is a sort of a new experiment. Before we get started, first I will entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Okay, we've got any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. For inspiration this morning, I thought it's just a one-day meeting. I didn't really secure anyone to come and speak to us. So I thought I would just do it myself. And one of the things this time of year is interesting because my wife's an educator, as you all know, and we all know a ton of educators. We got an educator here on the board with us, but they're all starting to go back next week. The ones that are on the 190 contracts, of course, the ones that are on the longer contracts have been there during the summer and doing the Lord's work. But we've got a lot of people that are starting to go back into the classrooms. Some of them have already been at the schools getting the classrooms ready. We know how the teachers want the classrooms to look just so. And so I thought I would give a few inspirational quotes that relate to education from just different individuals that I thought was really interesting. This quote is from Barbara Colorose, and it says, "If kids come to us from strong, healthy, functioning families, it makes their job easier. If they do not come to us from strong, healthy, functioning families, it makes our job more important." George Bernard Shaw said, "What we want is to see the child in pursuit of knowledge and not knowledge in pursuit of the child." Colleen Wilcox said that teaching is the greatest act of optimism. An unknown quote, unknown author, says that students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This is a funny quote. Good teaching is 1/4 preparation and 3/4 theater. Gail Goldman said that. Mark Van Doren said the art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. And I think that's interesting because when I was in law school, they used the Socratic method. And I know a lot of you know what that is, where the teacher serves as a facilitator, try to ask questions and get the class to teach themselves. And I thought that was great. John Dewey said, education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. And I'll give you one final quote from John Steinbeck. He said, "I've come to believe that a great teacher is a great artist, and that there are as few as there are any other great artists. It might even be the greatest of the arts, since the medium is the human mind and spirit." So it's just a few thoughts. I ask you all to keep our educators in your prayers and thoughts as they begin another school year. It's always an exciting time of the year. Ms. Kenmore, if you don't mind, would you be happy to say the invocation for us today?
Sure.
Words of prayer. Thank you.
Lord God, we thank you for another opportunity to come before your presence. We thank you, Lord, for allowing us another day to be able to set the stage for a new school year that's coming before us. We pray for the leaders, Lord, in the districts and the communities and each school across the state, that you may endow them with the knowledge and the wisdom and the resources that they need to take care of our children and to set them up for a successful school year. Thank you, Lord, for the leaders here seated around this table and in this room. Help us, Lord, to always be mindful, to look out for the best for our students and the best for our state. We know that you are faithful and able to do all things well. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Great. If we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, one thing, sort of as an aside, and maybe the ELA teachers in the room can help me with this. When you say the Pledge of Allegiance, is there a comma after one nation? So is it one nation under God, or is it one nation under God? And
It depends.
it depends, right? So I hear a few people, it's sort of like, forgive us our trespasses or forgive us our debtors for the Lord's Prayer kind of thing, and you always know who the Methodists are and who the Baptists are. All right, we've got a few guests. We like to recognize our guests always. And I'd like to give a shout out to our Decoding Dyslexia group that's here. Tina Ingberg, Missy Purcell, and Beth Haynes. They're on the front row. Thank you all for being here. We've got Matthew Smith from Georgia Partnership for Excellence in Education. And we've got, and I've written down how to say your name, Miss Tony. It's Tony Odejimi from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Welcome. It's good to see you back there. We've got Dr. Claire Buck from GASIS. Good to see you. We've got J.D. Harden from Cognia, Stephanie Tanner from GSBA, Margaret Ciccarelli from Page. Do we have anybody else that I missed or wasn't on the list? Emily Yona, good to see you.
From Impact Public Affairs.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Anyone else? All right. Well, we do have a special guest who's not really a guest, at least after her first meeting today. She won't be a guest anymore. But our 2024 Teacher of the Year, Ms. Christy Todd, is here to join us. And this is her first official meeting. And as I said earlier, there was a state law that was passed a few years ago that designates that the Teacher of the Year sit as an ex officio member on the State Board of Education. So we have been blessed in years past to have some wonderful Teachers of the Year. And Christy continues that trend. We're very excited to have her here from Fayette County. And Christy is a fine arts teacher. So continuing that trend, and I know Stan's excited about that. So, Christy, if you'd like to say a few words and just introduce yourself and
Sure, thank you so
floor's yours.
much. Thank you for the introduction and the opportunity. You know, today I've had the chance to meet so many new people, and most of you have asked me the same question, and it's been, so are you excited? What do you think about your first day being on the state board? And the word that just comes to mind is grateful. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here and be a voice for the approximately 120,000 colleagues I have across the state. I'm so grateful for our State Board of Education and all you guys do to support teachers and to support classrooms. I'm so grateful for our Superintendent Richard Woods and our Department of Education staff. And especially want to give a shout out to Dawn Ashmore for all she's done to really elevate the teaching profession through the Teacher of the Year program. So I'm excited to serve, I'm excited to be part of this board, and thank you for the opportunity.
Very good. Thank you. Great to have you. Wonderful to have you. And it's you know, when they listed the finalists for Teacher of the Year, you know, you kind of think, well, you know, will it be somebody from a different part of the state or this and what are the things? And I thought, there's no way that they're gonna have two fine arts teachers in a row as Teacher of the Year. And you won. I was like, well, yeah, because at the end of the day, what we look for in our Teachers of the Year is someone that's a great ambassador for the state of Georgia, a great ambassador for the educators, and whether it's fine arts or ELA or math, science, anything, it's important that you're the advocate. And we appreciate that, and we know that you're gonna do a wonderful job here on the state board, so we're really excited. So it's good to have you here. Moving on in our agenda, we have a public hearing for State Board Rule 160-4-2.13, which is statewide passing score adoption. And no one signed up to speak, and so that public hearing is closed at this time. You should have before you a consent agenda that has been created from our business. In addition to that, I asked that the following items be placed on that. The individual student waivers, the minutes of the June 14th, 2023 executive session, the minutes of the June 23 State Board meeting, the July 2023 personnel report, and the July 2023 legal report. And so those were placed on the consent agenda and the agenda itself. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the overall agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jonnet. Second, Frank, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, hold on. Everybody's, all right, I got Ms. Zoller. Do I have a second? Ms. Petty, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We do have some items that have been pulled for a separate vote. And the first, and they're both out of Rules Committee, and so I will defer to Ms. Petty. First one is number one under C1 is State Board Rule 160-4-2.13, the statewide passing score. Ms. Petty, the floor is yours.
Yes, the the statewide passing score to amend the minimum requirement, not the requirement that has to be there, but the minimum requirement to 10% from 20%. And we asked to move that to a separate vote, so each board member could vote as their constituents saw fit. And I think there was some that maybe had something they wanted to say at this time before we take our vote. So,
Motion.
Well, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
All right, I have a first, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. Any discussion?
Well, I was waiting on Mike. He was gonna go
That's
off.
after looking over
He was
here.
looking at me, I guess. I mean, I think, I said it earlier, about the compassion I have for kids. And also that, from the teacher standpoint too, of the 4 core courses that, across the state, this is the only chance that we have. Like I said, if I'm in Vienna or Cairo or Troop, to have apples to apples of what the content that we're doing. And I just, feel like that if we drop to 10%, that drops the, merit of the test, the content. And we've had this discussion before. It's nothing, I wanna do everything that's right for kids. And I think it's right for our state, but we're trying to turn out kids that have the content knowledge to go into the workforce, to go to college or the universities. And I think it's important if teachers are working that hard to deliver it, that we ought to, in schools, as I said earlier, they're gonna get a grade on their school. And as a student, I would want that performance to be the best that we can do with it, so.
Ms. Rice, any further discussion?
Yes,
Mr. Roy.
I mentioned it in what we said. I mean, I know we talk about flexibility a lot, and I think this board, over history on it and the history of previous boards and this one, always been about flexibility and local control and giving it to them. But it's when do we draw the line on flexibility and say, here's our minimum standards, and that's what we're discussing here today. Is not what the minimum is for a kid to graduate high school, not what the minimum is for them to, but we're saying in these 4 content areas, which we deem to be critical to the life success of the child, to know that we have standards on these 4 content areas, and for the weight of that child's grade, this test, this EOC is going to count for 20% of that grade. That is the minimum that we are going to have. This is one of, and I was going back and reflecting on some of the discussions and some of the places we have. There are very, very, very few places right now in public education across the state where we have a test like this where every kid in this subject area gets the same. Everywhere else there is flexibility. CCRPI now has maximum flexibility. The teachers have flexibility in grades. They have flexibility on how much the final counts. These are, and one administrator said, this is one of only 4 areas where we know in the state of Georgia, every kid's getting measured by the same test at this level. And one went on to say, I have more confidence in this test than I do of any of the other tests that the state gives, period. And he said it should be 30% really, he would like to increase it to 30, but that he even uses the EOC testing as an interview question for prospective teachers and asks them how are they going to handle grading situations when a child masters the EOC but hadn't done so well in the coursework. He wants to know, are they going to weight more the EOCT where there's a standard test that they know that they have certainty and their history is reliable to master those standards and the child does really well on that? Or is that teacher going to, in his word, hold Johnny accountable for not turning in the homework worksheets? Which one's gonna carry more weight in that teacher's of that grade? And that's an interview question that he uses while interviewing prospective teachers. And I mentioned in a meeting this morning, a speech that was sent to me by somebody after our discussions last year from 1996 by Coach Scalinos, I think, 78-year-old coach, one of the most well-respected college baseball coaches out there, about 17 inches, widening the plate. And even specifically in his speech, he says back then, that's one of the problems we have with education, is we don't hold kids accountable. That if they can't get it across the plate at 17 inches, we widen the plate. And he goes on, it's a pretty long speech, it's really interesting on it. If you Google 17 inches, you'll probably find it. And it was a really interesting read to me from life and business and everything else, because it goes into church and home and everything else. But we are widening the plate by doing this. And we are watering down the graduation requirements. We are. Whether it's right to do it or not, we can debate that, but I don't think there's any debate on whether we're lowering their graduation. You can't. I mean, it's simple math. But with that, I was way more articulate in committee, particularly 2 weeks ago. Because, I mean, our members know when we say, we're gonna vote, and I feel like this is gonna fail. And that's okay, because that's how boards work. We do it, you go around, you say your piece, you disagree, you understand why, and you move on. But I really think we're doing a disservice by widening the plate in these 4 content areas. Because to keep with the baseball analogy that I used last time, the Braves lost last night like 23-20. Something like that. I mean, it wasn't quite that much, but it's one of the highest scoring games in Major League history. And it was not because Austin Riley struck out in the 9th inning. Matt Olson struck out in the 9th inning. It wasn't because they struck out in the 9th inning. Austin Riley had 7 RBIs, tied a Major League, his own personal record, I think tied a Major League record. No, it wasn't because of Austin Riley striking out. It was because of the 3 errors and those hits that went off the wall. I watched the whole game. It was really riveting. It was incredible. One of the best. It was incredible. But they didn't lose the game. It was because they didn't execute the other 8 innings at the level they needed to do to get it. And no one widened the plate. Austin Riley had 17 inches of that plate, and that pitcher threw the ball over that 17 inches and he didn't get it. But he had a career game. So did Austin Riley get an A+ last night and pass? Yes, but he struck out in the 9th inning when it really, really mattered. But he had 7 RBIs throughout the game and prepared and helped the team be in a position to win. That's it. I mean, so I know about flexibility, but you can become so flexible, you break. And we've been trying to hold a line on this, and I just think these are just a really important subject matter area, and we need to keep it at 17 inches.
Right, any further discussion?
I think the analogies are all good, Mike, but I think that what you do is actually making the case for more flexibility. Because what happens many more times, the example you gave of the kid that does poorly most of the year and then aces the test is really not the usual thing we hear about. The usual thing we hear about is the kid that's done all their work all the way through. They've worked with the teacher, they've done the things Helen talked about earlier about how a kid's taking a test and you're seeing what they need help on and you're giving them and that remediating that help throughout the thing. And then that final test is the one that makes it difficult. I had it happen to me when I went back to graduate school in my 50s. I had been doing all the work all the way along and the exam made me have to retake the course at 56 years old, okay? So the reverse of what you're saying is the one that's more likely to happen. So I'm in favor of the giving the teachers the ability to do their best and to be able to really know the students, and I think that's what this flexibility gives, and that's why I'm in favor of it.
I'm tempted to do as Martha did and maybe take your baseball analogy and turn it another way, but I just want to remind the board, those present in the room and those who are listening in, that we are not changing the passing score on this test. So we're not widening the play. You still have to pass the test with a passing score. What we are giving districts the flexibility to do is they can count at 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30% of a final grade. And I've heard from the districts that do not want this reduced, they don't have to do this. This does give the districts that do want to reduce the final exam as a percentage of the final grade, the opportunity to do that. And if they do, and as some school administrators and superintendents that I've heard from think that it's going to result in students taking the test less seriously, they can try it for a year, and if they don't like it, they can change back. But if they want to leave it at 20, they'll have the flexibility to do that. But we are not changing the passing score on this test. I just want to remind those who are listening in that we are not changing the passing score.
It's not the passing score, but the weight, so you can make a
The weight,
lower score
But
and
we're
still
giving
get it.
districts the flexibility to choose a weight that
Yeah.
they think reflects their own personal situation.
Should call for the vote.
Unfortunately, I think, you're right, Steve, there are gonna be districts that aren't gonna do it and districts that will. Fortunately, one of the ones that was the most vocal said, no way, we are not gonna lower it. I'm glad, because he's being a good leader. But unfortunately, from what this job has taught me, is probably the ones that are gonna lower it are probably the ones that need it raised, the ones that are really need the most work and the most help from, unfortunately.
Any further discussion? All right, there's been a motion, a second. I will do a roll call vote, and I will do it in order of congressional district. We'll start with Nick Ellis from the first. Nick?
Yes.
Frank Griffin from the second?
Yes.
Ellen Rice from the third?
No.
Lisa Kennemore from the fourth?
No.
Kenneth Mason from the fifth?
Yes.
Rich Valladares from the sixth?
Yes.
Mike Royal from the seventh?
Yes, I'm just, no.
I pushed down for a yes. Jason Downey from the eighth, I vote yes. Martha Zoller from the ninth?
Yes.
Stan Jarner from the tenth?
Yes.
Scott Sweeney from the 11th. I don't believe he's present. Scott, are you online? Okay. Scott is not present. Matt Donaldson from the 12th.
He's on there.
Mr. Donaldson, are you on the line?
I'm sorry, you broke up there a bit. Was it my time to vote? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I vote yes.
All right, thank you, Matt. Leonte Benton from the 13th. Mr. Benton?
I don't see him on there.
We'll come back to Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Benton.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just so you know that the video is cutting in and out a little bit, so
Okay.
just give them a second to catch up.
Okay, all right. Ms. Petty from the 14th.
Yes.
Okay, we will come back to Mr. Sweeney. Are you on the line, Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Sweeney is not present. Mr. Benton, are you on the line and ready to vote? I don't see Mr. Benton on there. All right, so it looks like we have 2 votes that are absent. We have 3 no and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the vote, the motion carries 9 to 3 to 2, 9 in favor. All right, we will move on to item number 2 on the Rules Committee, which is PFEA, Universal Reading Screeners. That was pulled for a separate vote as well. Ms. Petty?
It's the list of approved universal reading screeners. That's just the initial list for this year. Pulled it for a separate vote, so everyone had an opportunity to voice for or against what their thoughts are. So I need a motion
We'll entertain a motion to pass at this time.
Are we not gonna have any
Well,
discussion?
we will, we have to do a
Okay.
motion first, then, yeah.
Okay.
So I entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move.
All right. Ms. Soller,
Second.
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 Mr. Griffin, all right. Any discussion? Ms. Rice?
Well, I'm just gonna ask again for clarification, Matt, on this. Because when I look at what the screeners that were submitted for dyslexia and the ones that are submitted here right now for the House Bill 538, they're almost all the same. What I was asking and talking about was the fact that I know when I asked you, did you hear from districts? And you said they wanna know about what screeners. And I said, well, can I share with you too from districts also, that yes, I understand the urgency, and Stan mentioned in the screeners, but also they're needing some guidelines because they don't have the money that the other bigger districts have, nor they don't have the people that can search it out. And when a vendor puts something online and we have a request for information, we look, you and I know that from teaching. Sometimes when we start really kneading the dough of it, it really sometimes might not be as effective as we think. So I was asking that, or it could be even more effective. I was asking that in some way, that when we put these screeners out there, this list, that there can be some guidelines to say, this screener covers it's universal, covers everything. And a universal screener and the other screener, I mean, they can be the same thing. I mean, why would you have two different kinds? Because one doesn't say universal. Universal really helps more with diagnostic and other things. So to me, if you're looking at a screener to cover everything, then you would pick one that it says meets the most criteria. I understand that the law that we're looking at right now is K1, 2, and 3. But if there were some guidelines that were in here with these screeners that said, hey, this screener covers phonemic awareness, it covers symbol sounds, alphabet, whatever's needed at that particular grade level, then those districts can go back and say, oh, we have this one. We probably need to either add something to it or look at buying one that is the best. And I said to you also, we have the cream of the crop here that are working on this. With April, with Amy, with Jennifer, that it wouldn't take any time, I don't think. I mean, that's how much I put credit with them, for them to come up with a guideline that would help these districts to be able to say, okay, I've got this, maybe I need to look. Because Matt, some of them have so much limited money, and they're afraid if they don't make the right choice and they hiccup, there's no other path to go. I know this rule says that we're to vote on just the screeners. Is there any way we can add, or you would be willing to say that we could have something in place? School's starting back in August, and they're gonna start, that they would have some of these guidelines. I'll be glad we talk, to share some of this. And I know, I don't wanna put Tina and y'all on the spot, but I know y'all have a bunch of information too that would be helpful if we just loaded, sent that on in to Matt also, because I think that's what's needed. We're on a road. I mean, we got these screeners. I wish we had the road to be already paved before we had the screeners out there. We're kind of backwards. But is there any way that we can have something as we post these screeners that says the guidelines are here? Look at what each screener does. And some of them have highlights, some of them you could have challenges with this or highlights, so it tells you what they cover. Is that a possibility?
We can share the components of the
Okay,
screeners, yes. And I would say that, to your point, the similarities between the list the board has already approved versus the list we're recommending for the universal screeners, I think they're all the same except for maybe one
or two.
or two. One thing on the funding is y'all last month approved funding for the dyslexia screeners that were based on the General Assembly's appropriations. So if districts pick a screener that's on both lists, they can use that money to satisfy those requirements. So that alleviates some of the concerns that's been around the funding issue. So I think once they see the clarity and the alignment, I think what today's vote does is make the connection that you just made, which is these 8 screeners are on both lists. We just got funding for dyslexia screeners, so if we adopt screeners that are on both lists, that alleviates the funding issue. But we wanna give districts flexibility. They might go with a kindergarten screener that they feel is the best for kindergarten, but wanna use a different screener for grades 1, 2, 3, and above. So we wanna give them the flexibility to make those decisions locally, but we can provide a chart or a table to show what components that the screeners have, similar to the one that we did for
And it can
dyslexia.
be, and can I ask, I hate to put y'all on the spot, the decoding dyslexia group, but did y'all do any more, analysis of these in the committee? Has that been done, or is this that we can share with, our chief of staff?
So that list was not vetted by the dyslexia task force because the task force ended at the end of April and then the list came out immediately following. So the group that was working on the screening process for the dyslexia task force, they didn't know what was on the list, so that therefore they couldn't go in and do a deeper dive.
Okay, so who else worked on,
That was Rachel Greenlee.
okay, but someone with screeners has put together some of the information
Right.
that would be legit to pass on. Okay,
And I'm more than welcome to look at that.
okay, and I brought you a bunch of stuff too, yeah. Okay, so do we need to say that in the rule, or just,
We have to vote on it the way it is.
Unless there's, you know.
I think the motion speaks for itself, but I think procedurally, we need to approve this, and then we can approve the regulatory guidance, or they can develop the regulatory guidance that follows after the rule's approved.
and
So
ready, and hopefully ready by August before,
Well,
when school starts? Could
As
that
soon
be-
as districts ask for it, I'm sure that we'll have a lot of hands that are willing to provide that. We can't put the cart before the horse here. We've gotta have this approved before they can develop any kind of regulatory support for it.
That's right.
That's just my assessment, but
That's correct.
so I call the question.
Any further discussion? All right. Question's been called. We'll go ahead and do it, since it's been pulled for separate vote, we'll do a roll call vote, as we did on the previous one. Mr. Nick Ellis from the first.
Yes.
Mr. Frank Griffin from the second.
Yes.
Ms. Helen Rice from the third.
I'm gonna say yes, with the understanding of the,
Yes or no? Yeah.
well, I don't know then, no.
I can come, if you would like to, if you'd like for me to come back to you, I can at the end.
No,
She's saying with the
Are you saying
understanding.
yet?
what
yeah,
was
I said with the understanding,
Okay, so yes,
yes, I'm,
all right. Lisa Kennemore from the fourth.
Yes, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
oh yes, thank you, Matt, I should say thank you.
Kenneth Mason from the fifth.
Stay in, you get correct.
Yes, thank you.
Rich Valadares from the sixth.
Yes.
Mike Royal from the seventh.
Yes, and you're welcome, Kenneth.
Jason Downey from the eighth. I will vote yes. And thank you. Martha Zoller from the ninth.
Yes.
Stan DeJarner from the tenth.
Yes.
Scott Sweeney from the 11th, are you on the line?
They are not there.
Mr. Sweeney's not there. Mr. Donaldson from the 12th, are you on the line?
Yes,
And your vote is yes?
yes.
Yes. Leonte Benton from the 13th, are you on the line?
He's not on there.
Still not on the line. All right. And Ms. Fennepetti from the 14th.
Yes.
Okay. Come back to Mr. Sweeney, are you on the line? Mr. Benton, are you on the line? All right. We have a unanimous vote of 12 yeas and 2 no votes. And so the motion carries. All right, moving forward, I guess, is there anything with the superintendent's report?
Nope, thank you.
All right, from the chair's report, I have nothing other than to remind everyone, next month's meeting is gonna be in Macon, take the show on the road. And I encourage everyone to book their room at the Hotel 45, which is downtown. And try to get there on Tuesday. We have some tours of some schools planned for both Wednesday and Thursday after our committee meeting on Wednesday. We're gonna tour a lighthouse school for the Leader in Me, which is gonna be Springdale Elementary. And then on Thursday, we're gonna have a tour, it's my understanding, of our state school there. For those of you who've not been on campus, it's a lot of fun to see what's going on. We also have a reception that's planned for Wednesday evening for the board members with the Community Foundation of Central Georgia. I know that some of you attended the Gale Conference. If you had any comments or thoughts on that briefly, just sounds like it was a good conference other than the fact that it was hot as could be, right? The air conditioning wasn't working, is that what I understand?
I was cool, I was at home.
You were at home zooming in, right? Teams in.
Frankly,
So, but I know some of you went, standing.
It was fun, Lisa.
They celebrated their 50th anniversary. That was the 50th conference, and that's a great thing to celebrate. It was very well attended. Helen's providing some visual support for this.
The teacher in me.
Yes, and it was well done, good speakers. Can I ask that, or remind the board that I think they received an invitation to virtually join in on the Council for Literacy's first meeting at 2:00 today. You can join in virtually. It's mostly, we're gonna go through and let everybody introduce themselves, and then I think we're gonna break up into work groups. I'll be reporting back to you on a regular basis about the progress, along with Amy Denty, who has been tasked at DOE with supporting that work as well. So, we're excited about this opportunity, and if you wanna join us at 2:00 today, please feel free to do so.
Great.
Can I say something too? The Jim Plunkett Outstanding Educator Award went to Keith Osborne this year from the Georgia DOE. And also, the keynote speakers were amazing, and I guess I could look at it, but the guy that spoke about understanding the surroundings and where you teach, and he had all these visuals in the car and talking. Yeah. It was really good. There were some great speakers, and there were thousands of people there, and it was good. And let me say this: is Stephanie Johnson here? There were 92 schools that received achievement awards there for getting out of the bottom 5%. And that deserves. And so that was another highlight there. Also, can I talk 1 second about some stuff that I brought for y'all?
Sure.
I went to a Science of Reading literacy convention, and Scott Johnson was there, and Miranda was there, and I was there, and several people in the audience were there. But some of the information that we received there was just outstanding. And I brought some of it back to give to y'all. It's one of the 95% group. It was done with the 95% group and the Excelling Ed group. And there's a reader's guide and reflection on planning that I brought. There's a whole thing on preparing for Georgia's Early Literacy Act and some things. I'm gonna give some of it to Matt. And so if any of y'all want it from me too, I'll hand this out, but you can distribute.
We can scan it and then send it out to the board, and if you want printed copies, we can make that happen.
Okay, I think I've got enough if anybody wants these two things, but some of the others you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was just absolutely one of the most tangible, visual learning process. And we had Cairo, Georgia there that presented. They had pivoted to the Science of Reading, and their numbers were just growing and going up of what they were doing. And we did a little experiment. I'm sorry Miranda's not here because we talked about doing it with y'all, and maybe we can. But we all got these little pipe cleaners. And there were 3 blue, and the rest, and 4 or 5 were another color. Well, you took the 3 blue that dealt with phonemic awareness and sounds and fluency, and you twisted those all together. And then you had spelling and vocabulary and comprehension and fluency on the others. So you braided those. So you took the ones that you twisted, which were foundational things, and you wrapped them around the 5 other components, which made you see that that's really what the science of reading is talking about. Getting the foundation and fundamental things in place so that all the other parts of learning take place. And it's scientifically proven, and it's in sequence. What you do in kindergarten builds on 1st grade, on the 2nd grade, so everything is threaded in one uniform way. So I just brought this to share. I think I called Stan and told him that I'd gotten some things for y'all. And also, do you want to do this later?
You go ahead.
Well, you're gonna do it
Yes.
at the meeting on the federal programs.
Yeah, we're at the retreat, we're gonna have a section on federal
Well, why don't
programs.
I share this with
Okay.
you and you can have those?
Okay.
But that was all in my Mary Poppins bag that I brought to y'all.
Great.
So
Thank you.
enjoy.
And you mentioned the retreat, and I will say that Martha and Finna are finalizing plans. You'll be getting some information on that very soon. It's gonna be at Brasstown Valley.
Arrive October 8th.
Right, it's gonna be
October 11th morning.
around Columbus Day, it's typically when we have it. And then one final thought, we have been trying to work, and I know Leonte has been on this, we're trying to coordinate a tour of the Ron Clark Academy. Hopefully we'll have that in November or December. So we're working on that. And that's it, Mrs. Kenmore. Ms.
Not
Roy.
it yet. Oh,
Go ahead, Ms.
Ladies
Kenmore.
first.
okay, Sandra Donegan
yeah.
Deal Center for Early Language and Literacy had their summit last week on Wednesday and Thursday. And the center's purpose is to improve the early language and literacy skills of Georgia's children by providing research-based professional development for organizations working with children from birth to 8 years of age. And April Aldridge she was able to address the summit, and she gave information talking about the ELA standards and everything that's going on. And a lot of people on the Literacy Council were there, and they were able to talk with all of the teachers and administrators that were there, and it was really good. And we have a new director, Dr. Lindy Morgan. She is the new director there, and excited. So I had sent out an invitation to everybody. I don't know how often everybody checked their email, but every time we have something going on there, I try to push that information out, especially with HB 538 and 211. We are trying to just work together to make sure our kids learn how to read and our kids are able to excel and do well through life, not just through school.
And a Deal Center representative from the Deal Center is on the Council for Literacy.
Yeah, I am. Very good.
Just had a unique opportunity, and I want to mention it because I'm going to be bringing more about this to meet with some of the executive folks from Walmart and some of their leadership about a program they have that I had no clue about that's being very successful about with their it's supply chain and academy. They have a Walmart Academy. And the Walmart Academy is doing some amazing things to help kids that don't really have a lot of options. One, to help have them have a job, because obviously financial is a huge barrier to a lot of kids pursuing any technical education, any higher education. But they will help associates and put people in their academy and management training programs. But the broad scope of curriculum and who this is available to was really surprising to me. They have young men and women in high school and technical school all over the country who are going through in Walmart training programs with vetted curriculum, vetted standards, and they're paying for it. And they're helping these folks get a leg up on life and teaching them job skills, not only just for what Walmart opportunities had, and because I didn't even really think about it. I mean, Walmart's one of the world's largest private employers, whether it's to be a pilot, a drone pilot, in logistics and HVAC and supply chain. I mean, just went across rattled off for about a minute all of the different areas of Walmart and expertise and technical education and technical skilled people that they need to make the trucks run on time and get the associates in and help you get your groceries and stuff out the door. But I'm gonna be in some more, because I think there's some really good opportunities in Georgia with how we are, when I say how we are, in a good way of trying to find ways to get credit for our kids, to move on when ready, whether it's our dual enrollment, our CTAE programs, but really.
Sounds like a Barbara Ware world.
Yeah, they need to meet the CTAE team big time, and we'll be doing some introductions, Matt, with that, because it was just really incredible what they're doing and the opportunities that they can provide for some of the kids that really need it the most, that don't have a whole lot of opportunities because of money or where they're at. And they have, right now in Georgia's, when they're swimming, they have over 500, want to get 1,000 quick in Georgia already in their academy. But we need to figure out how to work together to help give credits for those kids to go on to technical school or go on to, University of Georgia or North Georgia or Coastal Pines, wherever it is or what best suits them. I was really just blown away by the opportunity and some of the things they're doing. And I'm gonna try to help them share that story and increase those opportunities for kids.
Could I add to that real quick? I wanted to, we received, SREB gave us the State Leadership Award for Barbara Wall for Workforce Development, CTA, and also Stephanie Johnson for School Improvement Efforts. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Hey, can I add, I forgot this too. This is from the Fanning Institute, and you might be interested, you might know about it. This is the new program, Youth Lead, and it's rising 10th and 11th grade students. It's no cost if they're interested in leadership, but it's a summer program and they tour, not a summer program, but it's a weekend program, and they tour all across the states, 4 sessions, Athens, Cartersville, a June summit in Columbus and Atlanta, and it's talking about workforce and develop opportunities across the state. So if you don't know about it in your district, I know a lot of us have youth leadership local programs, but this is gonna be another thing, and Barbara Walls did talk to the people there too. So if you're not familiar with this, and Sean, thank you for this, and I'll give it to Benna to
Just quickly,
Sean.
quickly, Saturday would be Butch Mosley's birthday, so everybody remembers Butch Saturday, and Sunday is the birthday of our chairman, so.
Yes,
everybody
Jason
remember him
Downing.
and
Thank you,
give him a shout out, early birthday.
thank you. Anything further? One final
Mr.
thought?
Chair.
Yes.
I just wanna say a quick comment. Just wanna commend the work of Jeff and those that are working at DOE, school safety, and around House Bill 147. They're doing a lot of good work. I attended a lot of conferences with fans. So there's a lot of good work around safety been done, and I just wanna thank Jeff and the team that's working with them, the work that they're doing with DOE.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Anything further? Just a reminder, school starts up soon, so stop for school buses and attend your local high school's football game. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
So moved.
Oh, wow, and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I think the nays may have it, but nonetheless, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Mr. Sweeney! Hey!
Glad you could join us.
Matt.
I've been listening in.